Greetings, it is I, Tentus Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. Today we're going to continue our discussion on Vampire the Masquerade. I'm going to explain some more of the systems and keep diving into it. We're going to finish talking about the things that can change in your character from when you first make it. So I talked a little bit about spending experience last episode. In this one, I'm going to continue talking about that for a little bit. It's not just experience, it's the other things that can change on your character sheet. So I talked a little bit about using experience to change disciplines. When you do disciplines, you're going to assume that if you already have that discipline, if you already have a rank in that, a dot in that, that you can train in it yourself more and raise it. On the other hand, if you want a new one, you might need a mentor or some kind of magical artifact to unlock that ability within your bloodline. It's just assuming that there's sort of like, there's something going on that you have to unlock it. There is like, when you talk about elder vampires, they can have other powers or other like disciplines that aren't listed in the book here. There is actually a whole list of other disciplines they do mention. And for like elders, they can have even more abilities. And you know, dealing with that and learning from them is more difficult. It kind of talks about that, you know, there are things that you might need to do sometimes to learn these abilities that might even involve using elder blood, but some of those things I'll talk about a little later. You can raise your humanity with experience points. You can also get changes in humanity depending on the circumstances. The thing is, you should basically be allowing people to do this. And the GM can restrict you. They might want you to do something to earn that change in humanity. Because the fact is, it's very easy throughout the series, throughout a vampire game, to lose humanity. That's a lot easier than gaining it. So you might get chances to spend experience to learn humanity, or because of story awards it might be. If you did some kind of like act of really great good, or maybe you saved some kind of group of innocents, you might just be given a humanity by your storyteller because you did so well. Usually if you have that option, your storyteller will have you make a virtue roll to check to make sure that you did successfully gain that humanity. It won't be just like you gain a humanity because you did this. You can make a virtue roll. If you succeed at it, you gain the humanity because you've done so well. Now you can change your willpower. Willpower can go up. You can spend experience to gain willpower. There are things you can do in the game which might alter your willpower too. It is possible. Again, this is more based around what's going on in the story. In the same way, you can permanently lose willpower. If you're making a willpower roll and you botch it, you permanently lose a willpower. Again, you could spend experience to get that back, but you botched it, and that's very rare, though, to do, to lose willpower permanently. Now, as I talked about before, backgrounds, they're not going to be something you're going to use experience to raise them. Your storyteller is going to tell you when you've done something in order to raise them in the game, or lower them. Like, your actions in the game may reflect your backgrounds, and your storyteller will tell you when this occurs. And the last thing that can change on your character is actually your nature and demeanor can alter. Your character's personality can evolve and change over time depending on your own actions. And so, depending on what you're doing, your storyteller may force you to do a nature demeanor change just because of the way you've been acting and the way you've been handling your character might be from a different nature or a different demeanor than the one you should have been acting as. You know, it just depends on how you're playing your character for that kind of change. So a major theme in Vampire is rebirth. Rebirth is changing from a vampire back into a mortal. Many vampires seek rebirth. It's one of those things that's like, you can only live with the existence of undeath for so long before it makes you lose much more of your humanity than you're willing to lose. And so a lot of vampires begin to seek regaining that humanity, basically becoming mortal again. It's, you know, the vampirism, it really is a curse. So that's why it's a major theme, and that most vampires do look to that in a way. Unfortunately, there is no real known ways. It can happen. It's not impossible. So that's like one of those things that can happen in a goal. The known ways don't always work either, and so, you know, if you're using that theme in your game, it sort of would be that you're going to have to either come up with your own way or use one of these ways and, you know, have your players aim for that. Give it that they can attain this goal. So the first one would be that you get your sire, your sire's sire, your sire's sire's sire. You kill them all. you become immortal again. Now this doesn't always work. It's one of those things, is you might have to keep going down the bloodline to an unknown point in time of killing vampires older than you in order to possibly gain mortality. Another way is if you do a selfless sacrifice for someone, that you sacrifice yourself for the life of another, and in the resulting sacrifice you die. There's like this, you can rise as immortal again all of a sudden. This is sort of like the poetic justice of it, you know, that you did like the ultimate sacrifice and yet you gained like this gift almost. It should be used in sparing, and you know, you're not going to encourage people to just throw themselves in the way of a bus just for the sake of mortality. It's more when they would actually want to do this, they would. Now there can be complex rituals. These rituals might involve all kinds of crazy materials that are needed to be gathered in order for the ritual to be successful, and the only thing with that is any mistake with that could result in your death instead of your rebirth. So that would be, if you find a ritual, you could use it. And the last way is one that I will talk about a little bit more, the details of it in the next episode, but it's said if you reach the end of the Golconda ritual, rather than reaching Golconda, which I will talk about later, but you have to think of it as this like enlightenment for vampires. You can actually, before you're about to reach this enlightenment, you have the option instead to become immortal. Now, no one really confirms this. It's sort of talked about. It's like got rumors, elders deny it, that sort of thing. So it's hard to say if that one is actually accurate or not. The next important concept I want to talk about is, of course, Diablerie. Diablerie is the consumption of another vampire, drinking all their blood until they die, until you basically consume their very essence. A Diablerist is one that hunts their kin for their blood. Effectively, what you have to do is, if you want to Diablerize someone, you drink all their blood, and then you drink all their health points away, and then you basically consume their vital essence. You basically devour their soul, almost, or what vampires have as a soul. And then you can gain their power effectively. If the person you Diablerize is of lower generation, your effective generation lowers by 1. You effectively gain a free generation, and you get all the benefits of that generation you just got. Now, if the generation would be 3 less than you, then more than one person could actually work together to Diablerize this vampire elder, and they would possibly all gain the benefits. But it has to be 3 generations lower than the lowest level generation in the group. So once you've drained your target of all their blood, what you would actually do is you'd roll a difficulty 9 strength check, and for every success, you drain a health from that vampire. And you could keep doing this until you get their health down to nothing, and then they suffer final death and you consume their essence. And at that point in time, if they're lower generation, you would gain a generation. Now there is the possibility that you might have to make a humanity roll. If the vampire you Diablerize is maybe good-natured or does very good things, you have to worry about losing humanity for doing this horrible act, because it really is, and it's looked down again, highly looked down on vampire society. People do not like this. You know, vampires will look at Diablerists as horrible things. You're basically a cannibal. That's basically what you are. You're a vampire cannibal if you do this. Now the thing is, there are possibilities of using elder blood, which you might be drinking anyway, and other things other than just Diablerizing it. It is very potent, and so there are ways of preserving it and using it for various rituals and stuff that it will come up on. I've talked about the potency of elder blood before when I was talking about blood pool. It is, you know, just as useful for other things too. So that's it for today. I finished talking about things on your character sheet that can change, and I talked about Rebirth and Diablerie. In the next episode, I'll start talking about Golconda and a few other things beyond that. So, if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything you think I left out, please leave in the comments below. Please like this video. It shows your support for the channel Empire, for the work I do. Please subscribe if you already haven't. We're always looking for more members, more citizens. And please share this video. If you know anybody to learn from it, or would just enjoy it, please share it with them. And until next time, I bid you farewell.